Hello, everyone. This is the Revolutionary Think Tank podcast. If this is your first time here, this is a podcast about political commentary, a sprinkling of philosophy, organizing psychology, and revolutionary thinking. My name is 4AS, and this is my co-host, MysterE. So, MysterE, how are you going today?
I am very well, 4IS. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. And let's be honest, he's basically a third co-host at this stage. Kareem, our resonant AI explorer.
Explorer.
How you going today, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. So it's got my attention.
I see what you did there. Because yes, today's conversation is about the attention economy.
Yeah.
Now, where I want to kind of background this is I've talked to you guys, and I'm pretty sure I've talked on the podcast before about Albert Wenger's The World After Capital. And like basically the entire premise of his book is because he's a massive like technology slash AI nerd, and he discusses that okay, in the time of Henry Ford and the time of Karl Marx, capital was the thing that was scarce. However, since we've had a technological boom after technological boom, what is scarce nowadays is not capital, but attention. Because technology is in late stage capitalism has reached that framing. And in his book he talks about how the attention economy, and like he goes into statistics like every day on YouTube, the content that's uploaded in a day, it would take you 100 years continuous watching 24/7 just to get through a content in for that day. Like,
right. And is that an old quote too now by the pace of tech movement in the 21st century? It must be.
I can't remember if it was 2022 or 2023 when the book came out, but like.
Okay. Well, that's fairly recent.
Yeah, that's fairly recent. But then in the book, with that sort of framing in mind, and I guess he doesn't refer to, your Mark Zuckerbergs and your Jeff Bezoses as techno-feudalists, but he basically was like, if we let technology go the way it is, it'll be the capitalists that do have command of these technologies. They are the ones that are going to steal all of your attention.
Yeah.
So he then discusses about the best way forward is to have economic freedom, informational freedom, and then psychological freedom. And just to kind of quickly go over that, economic freedom is stuff like UBI and fairer progressive taxation. Informational technology is the idea about net neutrality, which we can definitely go into the definition today, and making sure that your internet service providers aren't aligning themselves with certain companies, so their products are basically overshadow other people's.
Yeah.
And then psychological freedom is about mindfulness, and then what he calls, instead of you have a job in order to buy stuff, and it's kind of that sort of capital loop. It's what he calls the learn, create, share model. And it's like, if we bring in these educational reforms, so we're focusing on the attention economy, that can help us navigate these systems. And
so can I ask, is Albert, ye old Albert, is he an old Marxist or something like that? Or is he completely coming this from like a bourgeois economic perspective?
I actually don't know his background.
Yeah.
But he could be a liberal.
Sorry. A liberal? No. Okay. Yep. Got it.
He could be a liberal, or he could be a Marxist. I'm actually not entirely.
But like, there's nothing that gave you the insinuation, I guess, from the book, or was inferred that like he was taking a Marxist analysis to his approach to the topic.
I think he was probably coming from the angle that he is like an AI slash technological expert because
Okay, so
yeah,
that's the angle. Yeah, got it.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah, and
Because like some of the stuff you were talking about, like you can have very direct Marxist interpretations of that, right? Like,
yes,
he who owns the technology, will control the world kind of thing. So
yes.
that's like obviously means of production stuff we're talking about there.
And I think your solutions, you could definitely make a case that they are definitely liberal slash let's fix the broken system and
Yeah,
solutions for things. But
yeah, yeah.
I think it's still stuff that is worth considering. But
Yeah, humanizing capitalism. Yeah, yeah. Let's just keep digging that hole.
But with that, I guess, broad strokes of what Albert covers in his book, the attention economy. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, well, look, I might let our guest go first because, he delivered quite the pun before. So I actually am quite interested to know what, from an organizational therapist or psychologist, standpoint, what the attention economy is all about. Because I'll tell it from a revolutionary Marxist perspective, but it probably won't be as chirpy. So
Sure. So yeah, I guess let me frame it in terms of I guess how this sort of conversation arose in my mind, which was, as 4IS described before, the idea that attention is scarce comes from this place where we have that many different competing demands for our attention that it's difficult for any one individual to actually direct their attention to where they want it to go, as opposed to like allowing it to be captured by all these different, whether it be individuals or organizations or stakeholders that are competing for our attention now. And I guess probably not as relevant, but this idea that not only do we have interests that are competing for our attention, and our attention is now being commodified, like in terms of in terms of how to capture it. The organizations that are able to capture our attention are able to put a price on it, whether that be through social media or YouTube or whatever it is, because the moment our attention has been captured, it provides an opportunity for marketers to get in and sell their product, basically.
yes.
So the world that we live in today is one where we may have an idea as to where we want to direct our attention, and the kinds of activities that we want to be engaging in, but that competition for our attention is a competition that we engage in as well. Because like social media has given all of us a platform by which we can now stick our hands up and say, hey, I'm doing something cool over here. Is anyone interested in what I'm doing? Whether that be for content creators or people that are sharing bits and pieces of their lives or achievements or holidays or whatever that is. On some level, we need attention to survive. I was sharing this with 4IS earlier. We've got children have a way of sort of like hijacking our attention because they need attention to survive. If they don't get attention, they can't fend for themselves. They need to be able to capture our attention. But on some level, like it must be built into our DNA in terms of how we go about capturing the attention of primary caregivers. So, but that need for attention, it doesn't like, we get better at fending for ourselves, but as we grow older, the need for attention doesn't disappear. Like we want attention from the people around us, or in the activities that we're engaging with, or the value that we might be creating within a system. Like any type of work activity that we're engaging in on some level, in order for it to have value, like it needs to be some type of contribution to society.
Yes.
If society doesn't notice what we're actually doing, if we're not getting attention to the value that we're creating, are we actually creating any value?
So like validation.
Valid. Yeah, that's you nailed it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and this kind of bleeds into the techno-feudalism aspect of what I was talking about before, because that's the thing about Amazon or Facebook or about any of these well-known, at least social media heavy websites, or at least manufacturing providers that are out there. They control the API systems and how you interact with their system. And, there's been quite a bit of studies about how, governments have had to talk to Amazon about the fact that they are basically spruiking their own products over other products and that sort of thing. If we allow them to grab our attention and to face what they deem as valuable or not, that's a huge problem for society.
Yeah. All right, well, let me give you the MysterE take on it. So strap yourselves in, gentlemen. This is something that is, I think, innate to the capitalist system and is kind of, I guess, a very large development of a foundational contradiction within the capitalist mode of production, being the problem of value creation under the capital-labor relation is that we don't produce for use sake. We produce for profit, in the sense that if you're a company and you make T-shirts, you don't make T-shirts because everybody in the community or your country needs a T-shirt. You make 100 T-shirts and you hope to sell 100 T-shirts. Now, if there's no demand for 100 T-shirts, then you've got an overproduction issue. Now, this is, like, lo and behold, a wonderful problem. No time in human history have humans ever had a position where there is such an abundance of T-shirts going around. It's usually like, someone makes their own T-shirt and they wear the same thing until it falls off. That was usually the trend in history, unless you were, I don't know, a king or something like that, or lived in, I don't know, some upper class or ruling class. So for the first time in human history, we have the problem of overproduction. Now, if you still need to get profit to survive, and that's your motivation and the driving force to sustain your society, you somehow have to solve that problem with what you're going to do with all of this excess value. And that's where marketing comes in. Marketing was, or let's say, the manufacturing of need and demand. At a certain point, the working class or the consuming class within society, which overlaps many different segments of the social hierarchy, they have enough stuff. And so you have to be able to produce the need for extra shirts, or to have this summer shirt as opposed to this winter shirt, etc., etc. And so that's where marketing comes in. It helps produce need, and then to allow the production cycle to continue, so the capitalist mode of production can move on. I see the attention economy, which is like an extension of this kind of 1950s post-war kind of marketing craze that we went through. There's like a famous TV show that people talk about. I think it's Mad Men. I haven't watched it myself, but like it's supposed to be all about this concept, right? About like how you manufacture demand for goods in a society that basically has an abundance of goods. And so you have to capture people and make them feel like if they don't have this, they'll miss out, as opposed to, oh, I need that, just innately kind of thing.
Can I like give you just putting my devil's advocate hat on here?
Please.
Because if you were to talk to marketers, this is like the point that they would raise is that the demand exists sort of across the spectrum, but in terms of where like how that demand is connected to the people that are actually producing anything which can meet that demand, that there is a misalignment between where our attention goes and where it sort of should be going in terms of the things that we actually need. And I take your point around manufacturing the need, but their perspective would be that they're aligning what our demands are with what is actually available out there. So, and I'm sure if you were to talk to like salespeople as well, you know, their point would be that our roles are to connect consumers with products that they may or may not need and help them make a decision around how does whatever we're selling actually align with whatever it is that you need.
Right. And to be like perfectly frank, of course they would say that because they have to justify their position in the social structure. And like their role is to, whether they understand it or not, is to push the products that are produced for profit's sake as opposed to use. So these things are being designed for consumption purposes, but not for use purposes, just to be consumed. And this is what I'm saying. The premise is actually that there is overproduction of these goods, and it's not aligning demand with value creation. It is value creation, and then, oh crap, what do we do now? Let's make the demand. And so like, how many shirts can you wear in a year? I would say that you could probably get away with wearing the same shirt for 10 years before it literally falls off you. But like most people wouldn't wait 10 years between buying shirts these days. I would say there's a difference between use and need in that circumstance.
I totally take that point. And I think the T-shirts example is a great example to work with. Going back to your point around, say, okay, we produced 100 T-shirts and we've got overproduction. But where do you, okay, let's say we don't need 100 T-shirts. Let's say we actually, in terms of the T-shirts that we need, maybe we needed 50. That's like the rest was overproduction. So I take your point around, okay, oh crap, we've got an extra 50 T-shirts. How do we get rid of them? Let's bring in the marketers. Let's bring in the salespeople. But again, if you were to talk to them, they wouldn't focus on that part of it. They would say, no, hang on. We actually need 50 T-shirts here. And out of all the different T-shirts that you could buy, how do we help you figure out which T-shirt you should be buying?
Yeah, and that's why they are valuable, because they look at it from that perspective. That is like, no, hold on. I will sell you this ice, you Eskimo, and you're going to love it. This is going to be revolutionary ice. You're never going to see ice like this ever again. Even though you're completely surrounded by it and you live in the North Pole, don't worry about it. You're going to love this ice. So like, that's their framework. And like, I think that is completely legitimate. But like materially, like if you look at the concrete reality, do they need more ice? And it's probably not. It's probably no. But it is the job of the marketer to believe in that mission, believe in that vision that we must sell these 50 shirts. And like, you know, you need this, and I'm going to help you make the best choice. You know, like, and they do that well. I'm not questioning their motives, to be honest. Like, it is part of the value that they contribute to society in a capitalist mode of production. They move things. And capitalism is all about value in motion. Things have to be circulating. Money has to be circulating in order for people to realize value. And a capitalist who makes 50 extra shirts, they lose value. And everybody kind of suffers in that system if they don't push those 50 shirts, because they'll sit in a cupboard or they'll just fill up landfill. So they might as well go to someone who's going to use it 2 or 3 times, if not until it falls off. And then maybe they'll put it into landfill. But like, at least someone used it. And like, there's some validation there of that production. But like, you need, what I'm trying to posit to the panel here is that in this style of production, you do need, at a certain point, it wasn't always like this, maybe in the days of Adam Smith and co., but now you need these people. They're integral to help the flow of capital in a global, in a very globalized market. Like, let's be honest, the t-shirts that we're wearing now were probably made in Bangladesh or something like that.
This one actually was.
And like, you know, that gives people jobs all around the capital flow in the global system. So like there's value creation, there's job creation, there's the movement of like, you know, goods and services all surrounding all of this. So I wouldn't question and say that marketers are like, you know, doing the wrong thing. But the fact that they're necessary in a system that it overproduces because it's not concentrating specifically on demand up front. That's secondary, if that makes sense. And that's where I believe the attention economy is kind of an extension of this notion, this fundamental capitalist critique or capitalist analysis function. Because what I've heard from both of you so far, and I've done my own reading or research into this anyway, is the idea, and like this is rather perverse, but like, you know, happy to unpack this. The idea that attention is commodified now. Like, is nothing sacred anymore? Like, honestly, like I get it. Like in an information age, the argument that I've looked into so far is that in the information age, so maybe it's not just marketing, maybe it's just general influx of information thanks to the Internet of Things, or the fact that everyone has access to a public library now, where like, you know, 100 years ago, there weren't public libraries everywhere.
Yeah.
In an information age, there's an inverse relationship between information access and then attention. So if you have more information access, you have less attention going around because it has to be spread over more stuff. Yeah. And so when you have that inverse relationship, like you said, Kareem, like attention then becomes scarce because it's spread over more information. And as scarcity in any market system of exchange is a commodity at some point. So like one, I would say that's unfortunate that we've come to this, but if it's true that attention is a commodity and now in the social media era, which is what you were touching on for IS, where we have big tech companies that are able to place your eyeballs and your attention exactly where they want it to be. Like you can't even turn your head. It's not like you walk down the street and you're like, I'm not going to look at that billboard. No, I don't want to look at that billboard. Like this is uncharted territory, almost, like relatively speaking.
Sorry, you were going to say something?
No. Basically what MysterE was covering is pretty much what Albert Wenger's setup is that we now live in an age where, like I was speaking to someone before and they were like, wait a second, attention economy? Don't you still need capital and a way of like manufacturing things, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yes, like obviously those things are still important. And yes, this idea of the attention economy might be an add-on right now. But the thing though is that in this world compared to Henry Ford's time, Karl Marx's time, is that we're at a stage where we can create products or we can create things at zero marginal cost. Like, sure, if you want to make a pizza, you need the various ingredients and you need, a pizza oven, blah, blah, blah. But there are actual products within our current economy that you can effectively, like, say, create a YouTube video and you can upload that video to YouTube, and it's not necessarily costing you anything. Like, sure, you might have had to have done a startup costs in terms of buying the editing equipment, blah, 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 but not every single part of that process is costing you things because the technology has progressed this far that there are certain parts of it that are at zero marginal cost. And as soon as you have elements like that, and again, I guess what I was alluding to in MysterE, you basically put it in so many words, is that, well, the fact of the matter is, when you hop onto Facebook and you sign those terms of agreements, or you hop into Amazon and you sign those terms and agreements, um, what you view, you're looking at the products that Amazon wants you to see, and you click through on the other products that Amazon wants to see. And that's a lot of power to very few individuals. Sorry, what were you going to say, Kareem?
Yeah. I think it goes. I think it goes above and beyond that. Like because, like going back to what Mr. E was saying before about the information, the amount of information, and you touched on this as well for us. The amount of YouTube videos that get uploaded in a day taking 100 years to get through. Like the inverse relationship between the amount of information that we have access to and how much attention we have to spread. Like part of what we consider to be value creation in today's day and age is the creation of information. Now, whether or not that information actually has value is probably determined by how much attention it gets. And I think that, that relationship between the value of information and attention has resulted in a marketplace where it is possible to capture people's attention first and then figure out what to do with it later. Like, what I mean by that is like we have. I mean, it's one thing to have YouTube algorithms that sort of take a look at where our attention is already going and feed us content that is specifically tailored towards what our preferences are based on the way that we go about interacting with it. Now, the flow on from that is that the people who are creating content are now taking into account, all right, if this hyper-personalization algorithm exists, how can I take advantage of it in order to get the information that I have across to the maximum number of people? And that comes down to like YouTube views, how many clicks are we getting, like these metrics that we have of our interactions with the information that we're consuming is what feeds the algorithms and what feeds the what feeds these AI systems to be able to tailor and curate the information that we have access to our personal preferences. So it's when I talk about like capturing people's attention and then figuring out what to do with it, like there are people who are literally like just trying to get the maximum number of YouTube views available, and aren't particularly concerned with like the quality of the content that's going into it. Now, the reason for that is because once they've built up a subscriber base, or once they're able to get a certain number of clicks on their videos, that's the point in time at which they can start soliciting sponsorships, start going to like other organizations and saying, hey, I've got people's attention. Do you want to pay me some money and I'll plug your product?
Yes.
Yes. So it's a strange sort of marketplace to live in where, you don't even need to know what you're going to do with people's attention first. Just get it and we'll figure it out later.
But what they're feeding off is a systematic initial problem or an initial feature, let's call it, which is that these people might create themselves as attention nodes, but they can only capitalize on that or monetize that in the sense that they have to reach out with someone who has something that they want to sell or offload. And so they use their attention capabilities to push that product. So like they are using their attention drawing skills to make money off it for themselves in that sense. So like they're still at the end of the day going to be pushing a product for someone or a service for someone else, someone who is producing some type of value that may or may not be actually in demand. But like now that someone is telling them, hey, I liked this product or I used this service, maybe you should try it too. That is manufacturing that desire or that need for that product, because that person might not have, they might not have known of that product's existence before. They might not have even known that they'd had that desire. Like Kim Kardashian did this really, really well and does this really, really well with her products because she's got such global reach and influence. Like a lot of the stuff that she pushes, like her audience probably doesn't need it. But if Kim Kardashian's got it, then my God, I need that because my ass is going to look great if I have that, like, kind of, you know? So like, you know, I didn't even know my ass needed that until Kim told me, like, kind of thing. So like that is by extension similar to what we were talking about before with marketing in my mind. Just please correct me if I've gotten what you've said wrong. And like two, when you're on a platform, let's say, and I can speak to this because I'm actually a content creator, but like, when you're producing content on a platform like YouTube, and I'm not going to say anything bad about you, YouTube, please, don't ban me. Like I put my stuff on YouTube, not because YouTube is a benevolent platform that just likes to make sure people are distributed. YouTube is only going to push my stuff in front of other people's eyes, including my subscriber base, if it thinks it's going to get them ad revenue. That's pretty much it.
Model on it as well, yeah. But
like if I do something that's like under a certain time length and it's not ad worthy, like, yeah, I might have some of my subscribers see that, but YouTube's not really going to push it.
Can I just introduce a different angle to this? Because I think if you talk to a lot of these, and this might not be how you feel about it, but I think, you know, one of the perspectives of content creators and of marketers in general is this idea of like there's always talk about like know your market, know your demographics, what's your target audience, what's your, you know, who are you sort of geared towards. And I think the idea that sort of underlies it is that there is a particular type of person who's going to tune into particular types of content. Now, if we take that at a broad level, like let's say of the world's population, there's going to be a percentage of that population that tunes into YouTube, who's watching YouTube videos, maybe on a regular basis, maybe on you know a sporadic basis. And of that population of YouTube watchers, there's going to be certain demographics, like people that will tune into, you know, your channel, for example. So, you know, the driving force behind this, you know, I call it like a hyper segmentation of demographics, is this idea that if say for example, if we were talking, I'm going to make some horrible generalizations here, but if we were talking about your subscriber base, like people who may be interested in revolutionary thinking or who may be interested in sort of, you know, societal change, the way that organizations are sort of geared towards, you know, thinking about, all right, who is connected with our potential consumers. So if we're taking a look at all the people that are good at capturing attention, which of those attention grabbers is directly connected with people who are more likely to buy our product?
Yep.
Now, if we were having you think about like your subscriber base, what type of products might your subscriber base need?
Yeah.
You know, so at a broad level, they start thinking about, okay, what's the age range that might sort of tune in? What's the gender? What's the socioeconomic status? What are the interests? If there's any other additional data around, okay, do we know what else they buy? Like what kind of things that they're into? And how can we connect our product with whatever it is that they need? So like it's almost like you're bringing like organizations will come part of the way in terms of meeting that demand. They'll be like, okay, this is what the market wants. We'll start producing that. So they'll come part of the way, but the rest of the way is kind of up to these. It sounds horrible to call them attention grabbers.
Attention nodes. I thought that was quite neutral. I liked
More
that.
diplomatically.
I thought that was okay because I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I'll hand it to you on that one. It's better than what I came up with.
Yeah, but MysterE, Kareem, like the attention nodes have to do their job anyway, right? Because otherwise, how could they promote Surfshark VPN and how you can get all the coolest products on Netflix and you can watch all the shows that you need to watch? But yes, but what do you think in terms of maybe what Albert Wenger was talking about in terms of if you're able to redirect the attention economy and create something that's more in a that establishes net neutrality? Because like for context, what net neutrality is actually talking about is creating the internet as an essential service. So well, like I was kind of talking about before, at least I alluded to, was how internet service providers are actually stationed right now. Whether that's the specific providers that are in certain countries, like your Telstras and that sort of thing that are here in Australia. What will happen is certain companies will go to them and be like, "Hey, do you mind if I pay you a little bit of money so you can kind of push my website in comparison to my competitors?" And that is, well, not an ideal situation where it's important to grab people's attention for certain products over others. So
Is it also the case that like it's like a pay scale thing as well? Like if you can pay for better internet connection or a better package, you get access to more websites, like more of the World Wide Web. And like if you can only pay for like the basic thing, you only get access to certain, I guess, online services. But like if you can pay the premium package, you get access to everything. Isn't there like limitations on what you can do as well?
I mean, there's the paywall sort of conundrum in terms of what like you can get access to, but that's not sort of at the level of the internet service providers. Like the stuff that's behind paywalls is at the level of individual organizations who are saying, this is how much content we're prepared to give you for free.
Okay.
This is how much extra you have to pay if you want to access the full range of our content.
So the antithesis of net neutrality is not about limiting reach on the net.
I think what you're referring to, MysterE, is that I think when the internet was like, it's still kind of a frontier, but like at least when it was in the Wild West aspects of it, I think there was talk about having the internet as a tiered system where if you had the bronze, you could only access certain websites. If you had the silver, you could access more. And if you had the gold, you could access more. But then I think they went in the direction, especially free trade wise and like, free market wise, they were like, no, this is probably a bad idea. Let's move away from that kind of aspect of things in liberal democratic societies.
Right. Okay.
But Kareem is also correct that at least where it ended up was, I don't know, the Sydney Morning Herald. In order for you to access the full article, you have to go beyond their paywall because what they found out was a lot of people just don't read their print media anymore. Like, I think sometimes you go to like petrol stations and you just have the print media there, and then they'll just turn to you and be like, "Oh, do you guys just want that? Like, nobody's reading it.
Do you mind if I just give you the Wikipedia definition of net neutrality?
Yeah, go for it.
Is that all right?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So net neutrality or network neutrality is the principle that internet service providers must treat all internet communications equally, offering users and online content providers consistent transfer rates regardless of content, website, platform, application, type of equipment, source, address, destination address, or method of communication.
Yes, and this is where, because this is probably the more Marxian aspect of what Albert Wenger covers, and which you do with your content, MysterE, is that he's like Eric Olin Wright, where his huge thing is you, like, in terms of internet and in terms of providing information, everything should be open source and everything should be part of a collective commons.
Yeah.
So you obviously put your content, I know, on like the collective commons, like
I do Creative Commons, so like anyone can get access to it.
Yeah, and like he's a big proponent of that. So that's why I'm a little on the fence as to whether he's like just a liberal or whether he actually is Marxian, because like some of his stuff is like more liberal-esque, but then some of his stuff is like quite Marxian.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Well, like from that definition, it does appear to me that there is some type of tiered access to the internet. And like what I found surprising was, I'm not sure if you guys recall this, but Turnbull, under the Turnbull government, they started restricting access to certain things. Like everyone used to just go on and like a torrent website like Pirate Bay or something like that and download movies. And then Turnbull like limited Australia's access to like Pirate Bay and like, downloading stuff illegally, like pirating basically. Like before you could just get on your laptop, Google it, and then you're done. And now if you try and Google Pirate Bay or something like that, it comes up with like an Australian government symbol. It's like access denied. We will be busting your front door down within seconds and like kind of thing, where we're coming to get you. But before in the wild west days for AS, like there was no restrictions in that sort of sense. Like I'm sure there might have been restrictions on like, things that you're really not allowed to search, like kind of stuff. Things that are illegal, obviously. But like, pirating, like it was still kind of like, oh, well, it happens. It's the internet, like kind of thing. But then like the government put a stop to that. So like that's like a limitation on the internet. So there's no neutrality there. You're cutting people off from accessing that. But like it's neutral in the sense that it's happening to everyone across the nation. And so the only way to get around that was then to get a VPN. And so everyone just uses VPNs now and stuff like that. So yeah. And then like it looks like you're coming from the Netherlands or something like that. I don't know. And you can download whatever you want if you're coming from the Netherlands. Sorry.
I think the way you like my sort of interpretation of net neutrality is if we remove the profit motive from internet service providers.
No, it sounds like you've been spending a bit too much time on the Revolutionary Think Tank podcast there.
I was thinking about this today. I'm like, you guys are really affecting me. It's like, the way I think.
It's almost as if we're professional persuaders.
No, you've captured my attention. But if there is no profit motive with like let's say like people aren't sort of like you're not like we don't, if we didn't have to question whether or not the information that was being presented to us, people had paid for the privilege to capture our attention, then what would happen in that sort of neutral landscape is to me, the idea that information would have to stand on its own merits. Like in terms of whether or not it actually captures our attention, in that situation, the stuff that is most valuable to us information-wise should rise to the top, and the stuff that's least valuable to us should theoretically, if we don't have enough attention to go around to everything, then the stuff that's least valuable to us shouldn't even show up on our radar.
So, like,
Now,
do you suggest that you would need like some type of algorithm to assist with that, though? Like, to, like, just to filter through the absolute mountain of information that is there to help us get access to stuff that we'd likely interact with?
My answer to that would be that I'm sure the codes already exist because the media bargaining code already exists where Sky News and all the Rupert Murdoch owned papers and whatnot are already using YouTube's algorithms or Facebook's algorithms in order to push their stuff. So I would say just for the fact that uh, people are already manipulating algorithms for their own businesses, surely that the opposite would be true.
No, but like that's in a world where we know algorithms are playing a game here. But like the hypothetical world that Kareem was just speaking about there, where you actually had like a meritocracy system based on the merits of the information, and like somehow it would find the right people that would be interested in that. Would you need help, like digital help or something like that?
let me sort of explain the progression of how this help arrives to us, because every time we get the help that you're talking about, it gets monetized anyway.
Yeah.
I think the first iteration of that was search engine optimization. So we had access to Google search. Google search is free. But all of a sudden, once you've got like search engine optimization and you've got Google and sponsored ads, it's not that we have to pay for it anymore. It's that other people are paying for the privilege of showing up in our sort of attention feeds.
Yes.
The next iteration of that would be like, say your YouTube algorithm. Again, we don't pay for YouTube. I mean, they do charge but no one really cares about that. So, I'll pay just take my $10, get out of here, man. But we don't, like again, like you've got these YouTube like optimization programs, and what's even more insane than that is that you've got organizations that specialize in search engine optimization. Like you've got people that literally they're like, listen, let me show you how to get attention.
Yeah,
like we've got it down to a T right now.
Yes,
you've got people that like who understand the inner workings of these algorithms in such detail that these days when I go on my YouTube feed, and I'm sure it works this way with like other forms of social media as well, is that like the way the YouTube titles are created are all starting to sound very similar. Like 10 ways like 10 things that you missed about this, or 5 essential things that you need for your wardrobe or some shit like that. Like there starts to be these common threads and these common patterns between how people design the videos, like even the introductions, the outros, where to place your ads, like within those videos. All these things are getting hyper optimized. So, like what I suspect is, even if we were to get additional help in terms of making our way, like let's say that I managed to figure out how to build an AI that helps me work out which YouTube videos to watch. I don't trust YouTube's algorithm anymore. Like I need something that actually helps me like figure out, okay, this has valuable information to me. I need it. Yeah. The moment I get access to that algorithm, someone's going to monetize it. So someone's going to pay to show up on that feed instead of the YouTube algorithm.
Yes.
So it just seems to be this natural progression between the moment you've captured my attention, there's someone else that wants it who's going to pay for it.
Well, can I just say, because you brought up something interesting, there was an actual time on the internet, an innocent time, and I think it was pre-2003. The people at Google themselves were kind of like, we want to create a search engine like an actual search engine that is the best search engine out there. And their largest competitor at the time, or the person that was dominating the market, was Yahoo, I believe. And so like Google's ethos from like the year 2000 to 2003 was like, we will be the best search engine because we actually provide the best service, right? And then something happened, and there's this term that they used, which is like, I don't know, it's kind of funny in retrospect, but like, because it's just not the way that they look at it now, but there was this whole bunch of data that they got, right? So people would start using Google, and Google was really good at the start because it actually, like, people searched for stuff on the web, this big scary new thing, the web, and like it would actually find the best results for them. Like no optimization, no ads kind of thing, no one paying in the background to have their thing listed first. It was just finding the best results. And so like the people at Google were kind of like in the background looking at trends and data that was coming out of these people just continually searching on their platform. And they called this stuff, this data in the background, they called it data exhaust. It was literally just the crap that came out the other end that like, they were like, oh, we better do something with this. Let's just have a look at it. And so around 2003, they started being able to use this data exhaust to refine better and better the search engine to optimize the search results without monetization at this point. And then they started monetizing. And this is apparently in the grand narrative of where we are today in the land of big tech giants. This was the turning point. This is where it all changed, and everyone started to get in on this idea that if you collected enough data, you could sell that to advertisers or people that wanted placement on the platform. And like overnight, Google became a sensation, a household name, and worth, hundreds of millions, if not, billions of dollars in just a few years after that. Like kind of thing. And like someone tried to buy them out as well. I can't remember who it was. And they were like, no, we're onto something here. And like the rest is history as we know it. But there was this golden age, which is like, I think that hypothetical situation which you had brought up, Kareem, where there was a world where there is information out there on the World Wide Web. And there was a search engine that just existed to place you, the searcher, with the best search result.
So I'm gonna now I'm not sponsored by Perplexity, but I do like to be because Perplexity, basically what they do is like they've connected a large language model to like a Google type interface. So they do these deep searches of the internet across a variety of sources. And whatever question you ask it, it will sort of answer back in that format, and it will give you the sources for that. Now, I heard recently that Perplexity is looking at launching. I haven't seen any ads on their platform recently. Like they've got an actual subscriber model though, so you can pay your $30 a month and not have to see any ads at all. If you don't want to pay anything, then that's when we're going to show you ads. I'm not entirely sure like how I actually feel about that system.
But like it doesn't corrupt the search process. Is that what you're saying? Like
no,
the search
it doesn't. So the search process is independent of.
That's pretty good.
And to some extent, you know what? Like I'll hand it to Google and like actually, they might have been forced into this. I don't know, but like labeling the search results that you get as being sponsored versus not, like is a very clear indication to the user around, okay, these guys paid to capture your attention.
Yes.
These guys didn't.
Yes.
So
yes.
these guys actually, like, theoretically, they deserve it because
yes, but also, as you said, they might not just appear at the top because they're not sponsored and they worked hard to get there, but they could have been a team of search engine optimization marketers or something that been like, this will rank in search 100% if you structure it like this. So there are teams of people out there that are probably manipulating the system that way, if you think about it, because there's a lot of, like, as a content creator, again, like I can only explain by experience here, but like the world of content creation is either you make a really attention grabbing content and like you find the right niche, or you maximize your search engine optimization. So you make content that is searchable.
So do you get like an option between the two? Is that like...
No. As in, like, I think what a lot of content creators do, because they get this advice, is like, look, you niche down, and so you go into a niche and like you develop in that world, or you can do 50% of your strategy being like how-tos. Like people will search how to do something or what is this, and so you either make content for your niche, your area of interest that people generally gravitate towards to, or you make content just for search engine optimization. So like someone like me would be a search engine optimization piece of content for me would be, what is a revolution? So every time someone around the world types in, I wonder what a revolution is, my content might pop up. So that's different to like, making content like this, which is highly, esoteric or, within the niche, whatever the hell our niche is. I don't even know what it is. But like, it's probably not searchable stuff potentially, or optimized for searching. So like, there's like, that's how content creators kind of gravitate towards these two types of content styles of creation.
To go meta on it, like there are, and this is the part that freaks me out, is that there just keeps being more levels to this. Like it doesn't end. There are people who, like, there are YouTube videos that'll be like, this is how to make your side hustle profitable. This is how to capture people's attention. So like for example, you as a content creator, you are their target market.
Yes. Like the market for content creators is massive money. Like massive money. Once you go down that loophole, it's just like, how to become Mr. Beast in 10 days or something like that,
And it's like you like technically you're competing in the same space for attention. It's like you've got your niche, or apparently you don't, but
I don't know, man.
But then, like, in some respects, it doesn't even matter what your niche is. You are part of someone else's niche.
You're a market. You're part of a market. Yes.
To capture your attention. That's where this whole conversation came from. So it's this give and take of attention that seems to be like it has always existed. Like for the history of humanity, this give and take of attention like has always been there, but it feels like it is on steroids these days. That like the number of things that are trying to grab my attention, and in a lot of respects, the amount of attention that I want compared to how much attention humans used to want. Like we've always had people that wanted to get famous or wanted to wanted a piece of the pie. But theoretically, the pie has never been more accessible to the masses, So,
what did you call it before? You used the term hyper sensationalized or hyper.
I talked about hyper segmentation.
Hyper segmentation.
So
okay.
It's. I might have actually coined that term. I haven't heard it.
Yeah. But like,
it's possible I heard it somewhere. But what AI does now is. It is able to find patterns in data that we didn't actually know existed. So this is part of where that unsupervised learning algorithm comes into it, where we chuck a whole bunch of data into it. We don't know what we're looking for, but there will be these patterns that emerge out of it if we ask the AI to go, like say if we apply a clustering algorithm, And what some of these clustering algorithms will do is they will segment your customer base into like these different categories. And what marketers are doing with that information is they're saying, okay, I've got this cluster of customers over here. This seems to be what they're interested in. So I'm going to tailor my marketing message towards that segment.
Yes.
This other segment over here, they're going to need a slightly different message. compared to this segment, so I can tailor it in that way. And that's when the customer segmentation is part of what AI does really well. So you've got these targeted marketing campaigns where in the past, let's go back to the Mad Men days, it was broad brush strokes in terms of how can we connect consumers emotionally to the products that we're selling.
Yes.
And these days, it's okay. We can do this. We can fight this war on multiple fronts.
Yes.
Fight this war for your attention.
Yeah.
In multiple ways.
Yeah.
And
it's not like broad stroke. Okay, we've got primetime TV, and like we've got one chance to reach as many people with this one ad as possible. So it's got to be like more generalized. It's individualized almost in terms of its attack strategy. Like
these customers use YouTube, so let's make a YouTube video for them. These customers check their emails, so let's craft a specific email message towards them.
And this is the heart of what you wanted to talk about, right? In an AI world where there is access to this type of personalized data, like the hyper segmentation of like just really good marketing teams is one thing. But like once you introduce AI to this, it's literally, it's game over, man. Like they will be able to, and like, could you imagine not just AI in the marketing, like replacing marketing teams, but AI replacing production teams? Like everyone could have their own personal ads. Like their own personal ads.
That's where we're headed, but
and AI will deliver us this world.
Because AI, like if you connect this up to like content generation AI, like generative AI, like this is where the large language models fit into it. Like you can theoretically connect up, okay, this is what we understand about what, like the type of person whose attention we're trying to capture.
Yes.
I could just ask Claude or ChatGPT or any one of these large language models, how can I craft a message that will be most resonant with this type of person?
Yes.
You can actually automate that process as well. Like the amount of like, did you guys wind up checking out Future Tools? Like it was.
I've been checking out Future Tools. I've been trying to use it to actually get video stuff, but like a lot of the video stuff out there is underwhelming at the moment. So,
but the amount of content generation, copywriting, script writing, like stuff specifically for marketers, just on that.
Actually, there's a bit of marketing stuff.
Blows me away.
Yeah,
and this stuff is connected to generative AI. Like it's like that's a market by itself.
Yeah,
like the people who are writing content, who are trying to capture attention. Again, they're being targeted by other people.
Yeah. But like, I think it's like ripe for this type of stuff because of the amount that it can process in such a little time, in terms of not just analyzing the data and finding out who the target audience is, but potentially scripting and writing personalized ads for a very, very specific group of, like, I don't know, segment of a market kind of thing. Like, like the sky's the limit in terms of how personal they can get with people.
MysterE, just give it a year and then all of a sudden you'll have your very own deep dive advertising that has been pushed through to you. And I'll be like, oh, MysterE, you're logging in today. Oh, wow, we've actually found a new product for you for your own Patreon. You should check it out now.
Yeah. It'll be like, hey, MysterE, do you want to start the revolution? We'll start the revolution with this piece of chocolate. And I'll be like, oh my God.
And I'm trying to talk to you guys about this because let's take that deep dive thing, that Notebook LM stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's free at the moment, and I'm so glad it's free.
I know.
I've been blowing that much money on all this different AI stuff. But what if they were to introduce ads into that and be like, listen, guys, we have to pay for our service somehow. We got to survive.
Yeah.
Capitalist world. What can you do about it? So, like, what if ads started showing up in those audio overviews? What would you do about it?
Yeah,
They said, okay, give us $20, we'll get rid of the ads for you.
yeah. Well, like I'm assuming that's part of the business model, right? They get you used to something and then they hide it behind a paywall.
I don't know. Well, it's this idea that, and again, I don't know how I feel about it, that ads are so annoying that like we're going to charge you to get rid of them.
Yeah. Well, like I think that's part of like the psyche as well, and this goes back to the heart of, I guess, what we started talking about. In an age of such information, even the best and most targeted ads, with the best, hooks and catchy jingles and one-liners and stuff like that, most people are just like, screw this, skip, kind of thing. And so like in order to kind of, I don't know, stay ahead of the game, even as someone who's pushing advertising, you really have to be absolutely groundbreaking or revolutionary in the way that you grab people's attention, because there's attention scarcity. And that goes for content creators, marketers, artists, songwriters, whoever.
100%.
Well, but that's the whole thing, right? Because at least in Australia, it's universally known that beer ads, they make them that funny because they capture your attention. I think everyone remembers It's Our Big Ad, or like the Carlton Draft.
Yeah, the Carlton Draft one. Yeah.
That, like. You need that sort of thing because I guess, one, it's part of your target audience because you're watching rugby league or you're watching rugby union or that sort of thing. But also, like, you might as well entertain people whilst you're pushing a product onto them.
Yeah. Well, you got to give them something to pay attention to.
Part of my concern around this is that, like, over the course of history, like, we're getting better at capturing people's attention, like whether it be through AI or whether it be through like our understanding of the things that resonate with people. It seems to me as though the stuff that is getting through is the stuff that is most emotionally resonant with us. Like if we're able to appeal to people on that level, then that's the stuff that tends to make it through the attentional filter.
Yes.
So, like in terms of, let me just deviate to some psych stuff here, but like out of all the information that's available with the world, we're only going to be able to capture a certain portion of that, and that's what's called our attentional filter. Yeah. So, on some level, we're filtered by the five senses, in terms of like the frequencies that we can see within the electromagnetic, frequency spectrum, or the frequencies of sounds that we can hear. So like there's going to be information that gets lost, on a sensory level, let alone on an information overload sort of level. But what's happening is, like that narrow, that gap of how much attention we actually have to work with, and the amount of different information that's sort of competing to get through that funnel of what actually makes it through to our attention. We're starting to find that if you can generate an emotional response from people, regardless of what the medium is, can be ads, can be art, can be this conversation. Like if you connect with people on an emotional level, that's the stuff that is most likely to make it through like that attentional filter. And part of my issue is, like, we're getting better at competing for that, which means we're getting better at triggering your emotions.
Yeah.
Now, the way that, on some level, like our critical thinking skills, I think, are evolving as well to be able to discern where we want to place our attention. But on another level, like evolution can't keep up with the rate of technological progress in terms of like where our attention actually is going, because like we don't have, especially if you're like me with the ADHD thing, we don't have a whole lot of control over where our attention goes. Mindfulness,
yes,
mindfulness, I think, and going back to that psychological freedom, I think is a big part of the deal. If we can sort of lean into that, learn to develop that, we at least reclaim some of that control over like what information actually deserves our attention, and who is capturing our attention, who doesn't deserve our attention. Can we find a way to cut them off,
Yeah, I'm very glad you brought that up again, because like that is a huge component of the book, because he's like, well, our minds are supposed to be focusing on like, one thing at a time, but like in this world, in this digital age where it's like dopamine hit after dopamine hit after dopamine hit, like we're just kind of framing our attention quickly from one thing to the next. And really, up until this stage, our world hasn't been like that. So yeah, like a huge component was that psychological freedom, not only of mindfulness, but rather than what we're at the stage, which is get a job so we can buy more stuff. If you stay in that kind of capitalist loop, then our attention is just going to remain captured, because the profit motive remains there, and the profit motive remains there, and our attention is captured. But he talks about in educational forms, which I guess is a bit vague in the book with Albert Wenger, but like the create, learn, share, and like that sort of cycle to kind of change our focus. But I guess I wanted to ask, okay, our attention in this attention economy is quite captured the way things are. Can we use AI in order to correct that situation? Or do other things have to happen first before we can, get to that more create and learn mindset that Albert Wenger's mentioned?
Well, let me talk about this other great product that's not sponsoring me.
We have to fact check this seriously.
Oh my God! Yes, thank you for that, Kareem. Go on. No, I love that. Go.
No, so I've got I'm using AI to curate an information feed, a news feed, that scans the internet for stuff that I'm interested in, that I want to hear about, and sort of neatly compacts it all into this one little feed.
No way.
I don't use it as often as I should be, because I'm literally just click one thought to the next, click to the next. If I'm actually reclaiming control over what information do I want to make it into the feed, I'll name the product. It's called Feedly.
Okay.
And it's
Did you find it on Future Tools?
The guy that runs Future Tools, his name's Matt Wolf. He runs he's got a YouTube channel as well, and he's got a podcast. And he made a video saying what are the AI tools that I actually use every day.
Yeah.
Feedly happened to be one of the products that he was using.
Oh, so, Feedly, as in like your feed.
Feed,
so it curates a feed for you, right?
Exactly. So you set up these filters beforehand, and it uses these AI models to sort of catch trigger words within like different it's geared towards news. I don't think it goes over and above that, but you can specify which sort of news sources you want, or you can specify it's almost like a web crawl for you. You can set up like these really specific triggers, so you can. It goes above and beyond like keywords. Yeah. So it can be like combinations of keywords, or it can be these pre-trained models that sort of not only have the keywords, but have the related keywords around them as well. That they're geared towards capturing that show up in your feed. So the idea behind it is to sort of condense all these different sources of information into one neat little feed, that this is where my attention goes, and I've already specified the kind of stuff that I want to spend my attention on.
Incredible. So
Yeah,
the answer to your question there for IS is like, it's not going to happen in the future. There's already stuff out there doing that for you. So
yeah,
yeah,
and that might be important because like this might be a plug as well, but
uh,
uh, no, no, I found quite a while ago this place that again I probably should view them a lot more. They're actually an Australian company. They're called Fix the News, and they're basically their whole thing is about doing good news stories. Because they're like, oh, all of the news is full of bad stuff that's happening over the world.
Yeah.
We're going to focus on good news, and like, but you find like information out that is even happening in your backyard that you had no idea that was happening. Like for example, the other month, um, there was an Aboriginal there was an Aboriginal mob that got native title here in New South Wales. And that month I was like, wait, apparently that was on ABC News, and I don't remember hearing that.
mm,
So, like, there's even good news stories that are in your backyard. And I guess more to your point, Kareem, if Feedly registers that you're the sort of person that likes to keep up to date as to the good news that's happening every day, then maybe that product can help you not only get stuff from Fix the News, but maybe from other parts of the world, because that's what's good for your mental health or something like that.
Here's where I want to complicate it further,
Okay.
as I love doing. But like let's say I want good news, yeah. Like so I like set up my little AI model. Okay, trawl the internet for good news for me and feed it to me,
Yeah.
because that's where I want to spend my attention. Yeah. Um, how important is it for me to hear bad news though? Like, how important is it for me to be exposed to stuff that might not be part of where I want to spend my attention on because it's a conflicting viewpoint? Or like I think my point is that this stuff has the potential to create these filter bubbles. Yeah. And that's this is where like polarization of political views comes from, is if we spend too much time in these echo chambers without getting exposed to, and MysterE, I know you're big on this, exposing yourself to different ways of thinking. I think that stuff is really important. But the moment we open up the gates to, okay, what else is out there that I might not be interested in, the marketers come knocking,
Yeah.
So it's you don't get any control over.
I'm seeing a recurring theme in what you've been talking about for the last hour and a bit, Kareem. The marketers are there, the profit motive is there.
It's because they're so good at grabbing me.
Like, I want to take it back.
I'm a sucker for the hype,
Well, on the hype, I want to take it back to something that you said earlier about like how everything, like in a mass information age, the thing that can grab you the best is anything that triggers your emotions. Now, in a world where you've got like teams of humans, let's say, figuring out the best way to market to you on an emotional level, I think there is this kind of what we would say for us in the revolutionary Marxist world. There is like a dialectical relationship going on there between the team of marketers who are feeding on your emotions to push things to you or to grab your attention, and there is a dialectical relation between that and how people become desensitized to ads. So like the more they target your emotions, which is effective the first 100 times, but like the next 100 times you become desensitized to that emotion a little bit. And so it becomes a little bit less effective. And so there's this non-stop evolutionary struggle, almost this cat and mouse game between emotion attacking and desensitization. Because like, 100 years ago, if you showed I don't know. If you showed your grandparents like an ad that you would take for granted now that's full of CGI, special effects and sound effects and all that sort of stuff, they'd be like, oh my God, like on the edge of their seat. But like, you'd be like, yeah, I see that every 5 minutes kind of thing. And like, there's this really good joke in Futurama that I want to just leave you guys with. Now, I'm not sure if you're a fan of Futurama, Kareem, or if you're across a lot of it. Yeah. If you're across the older episodes in particular, Fry comes back to the place where they all reside and work. And he's like, I just saw the most amazing thing ever. It was like, you know, the most amazing colors of the universe, and like this most euphoric experience. And it was, and like, it's just the most crazy thing ever. And like, they're all just like, oh yeah, was it out the front of this discount outlet? And he's just like, yeah. And they're just like, oh yeah, they get a university kid to wear that to attract customers. And so like, he is just so over, do you know the one I'm talking about, 4AS? Do you remember? Yeah. And so like, he's just so overwhelmed and like emotionally on edge because he's just seen something so euphoric that like he's about to like basically have a heart attack. And they're all just like, yeah, we see that all the time. It's just a kid who's trying to push products on you. And so like, you know, they're completely desensitized to it. So like in the emotional worlds, like you were talking about before, I think like how far can you push the emotional game before the human body itself isn't able to deal with that emotional attack anymore. But like if we're continually becoming desensitized to things so it doesn't trigger an emotive response anymore, how long can that go on for? And let me just give you this kicker before you respond, Kareem. In that world where it's triggering human emotion, what happens when AI starts triggering our emotions?
Actually, MysterE, I will take that even further. If it's the same episode that I think you're referring to, that's also was it tied to exactly the same scene where Amy Wong, like I think, isn't that the episode where Fry realizes that ads can be thrown into his dreams? And then Amy Wong turns around to him and is like, "Oh yeah, we have ads in our dreams all the time, but you don't see us running to the malls and getting products at low prices." And they're all just sitting there and they're like rocking back and forth, and then they all just get
run out of the room. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
But like, Kareem, your response?
Yeah, look, Mr. I think you're absolutely on the right track with the way that you're thinking about this. And let me put that psych lens on it again, because take ADHD for example. ADHD is characterized by like chronically low levels of dopamine. Yeah, so there seems to be a relationship between the amount of attention that we have to spare or to give, and the amount of dopamine in our systems. And dopamine hits, like you were talking about before, pleasure reward chemical. It's far more than that. Like it does way more stuff than that. But like there is, in terms of like the emotions that we experience, certain types of conscious experiences generate different cascades of chemicals within our body, like whether that be on a neurotransmitter level, like dopamine, serotonin, or GABA, or whether that be on a hormone level, say stuff like oxytocin, like the love hormone. Like there's a whole bunch of different sort of chemical reactions that are going through our bodies when we have these emotions, and the triggering of the amygdala. So what happens is when that stuff consistently gets triggered, we can wind up having a chemical imbalance within the body.
Yeah.
So, for example, if dopamine gets triggered too consistently, not too consistently. How do I frame it? You get what I mean? If we keep getting these dopamine hits, it triggers addiction.
Yeah.
Basically. So we wind up with like when you disconnect from that stuff, what you find is that it's actually harder to get a dopamine response because one of the conditions that's triggered is something called anhedonia. It can be, and this is really common for people that are dealing with addiction, who are sort of detoxing from whatever their substance or behavioral addiction might have been. When they try and cut themselves off or stop that, they might have to go through a period where it can be hard to experience pleasure out of things because their baseline dopamine levels have been reduced. Yeah, well, not reduced, like the amount of dopamine that it takes for them to feel pleasure is just not getting triggered anymore.
Yeah.
So I imagine, and I wouldn't be able to give you the details on this, but I imagine that similar sorts of things could be happening across other emotions that get triggered, or other types of experiences that we had, which contribute to that desensitization that you were talking about. So let me, and I've been really dystopian on this one for some reason. Usually I'm all like gung-ho about it, but I'm just picturing a world in which we're seeing like people get killed in ads, and it's like,
well, that's what I'm talking about. There's like a desensitizing element. But I would say to you, and I would put it to you like this, that why I would call it desensitizing, in the sense that it's desensitizing because we know what it is, and so we choose not to register it, so we don't get the hit. And the desensitizing comes from, I've seen that sort of stuff before, I know what this is, so it's not going to stimulate me this time. And that's why we have, like, and as you explained before, like how annoying are ads. Even like things that like maybe last week or 2 years ago would have stimulated you, now you're just like, that's annoying. So it's not like you're becoming addicted to ads because they're increasingly more stimulating and they're triggering these hits, these emotional responses for you. Your desensitization keeps up with them. Like I said, it's an evolutionary thing, a cat and mouse game. And so like you see the ads and you're like, I've been tricked by that before. I don't like it. So then you just cut it out. And it's actually annoying to you. It's anathema. You're just like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But like if there was a point at which the advertising, this triggering, this stimulation was able to stay ahead of you every single time, so you never were able to be desensitized by it, because like it's not between two humans trying to outdo each other anymore, but it's like an AI, and an AI that's built on a data set that's personalized to you, because it's been following you around and stealing your data for the last like 5 years and watching you nonstop every time you use your phone or your laptop. And now it's so personalized because it's AI and it's smarter than you too because of all the data. It's now stimulating you every time it pushes an ad on you. Maybe you wouldn't be able to have time to be desensitized to it. And so you become addicted to the marketing. That's the type of world that I'm talking about here when I'm saying like, what happens when AI gets in on this game, like on a scary level, like kind of thing.
Let me show you what that scary level looks like. Again, I'm continuing with this dystopian thing.
Yeah.
Let me pair it back to what you were talking about before in terms of like the data that Google was sort of like able to obtain from these search results.
Yeah.
Now, the moment we got access to the internet, we got access to new data collection methods, like the time spent on web page, click-through rates, like all sorts of engagement metrics. Now, I imagine that we didn't actually know what the value of that stuff was at the point in time that we started collecting it.
Yes.
It was only
they called it exhaust. Data
exhaust, yeah. Perfect example of this. It was only later on that we were actually able to draw the link between what are these metrics and what do people actually want? Like, what are they looking for? You know, like when we were starting to be able to infer these underlying properties from the data that we already had. Yeah. Now, I imagine the situation that we're in at the moment, again, now we know that there are these chemical reactions that are being triggered like within our bodies and our minds in response to certain types of content. So we know that exists. We're not capturing any data on what's actually happening in our brains, or what's like, not without sort of, brain-computer interfaces, or some type of invasive method of measuring like neurotransmitters or hormones or whatever it is. But I feel like the direction that we're headed in is that the data that we are obtaining on people could lead us to a place where we are able to infer changes in those chemical balances as a response to the types of content that we're consuming.
Yes.
Now, if we arrive at that place, then
I think they call that a Freudian slip.
A dystopian Freudian slip.
I'm determined to shake this dystopian thing. I just feel this is really important to talk about. If we arrive at this place where we're able to infer those content reactions on a chemical level. Now, hark back to I think it might have been last episode. I was talking about what gets measured gets managed.
Yeah, Peter Drucker.
So if we're collecting data around something, it theoretically becomes possible for us to be able to manipulate whatever that thing is that we're collecting, because we're starting to get a full understanding of what it actually is and what the conditions are around it.
Yeah. Well, like, I think I wish I could remember this case better, but like in 2016, I'm pretty sure Facebook in Australia got in big trouble because they were monitoring teenagers so closely that they were watching like data on what music they were listening to at certain periods of the day, correlated with certain times of the week, depending on whether they were going to go out on the weekend or have some type of social activity planned. And if they were listening to like melancholic music or things that were sad or depressing and stuff like that, they were able to infer that whether or not these kids were invited to go out to like a party or something like that, or social interactions. And like they were going to some pretty scary, like, hey, let's push this product onto this kid at this time kind of territory, like data analytica kind of stuff. But instead of politics, like manipulating teenagers. And like Facebook got in trouble for that in Australia. So like, while it's probably not the biometric data that you're talking about yet, like judging off what type of song someone's listening to and like just trawling through their information to see whether they've been invited to the party that's being organized on social media and stuff like that, because it's got access to all the friend groups and stuff. That's some pretty invasive territory, personalized stuff right there. And that's not like 10 years in the future. That was like 10 years ago stuff. Like,
I think, I mean, for me, this stuff is absolutely fascinating in terms of like,
it is. It's fascinating, right? It's scary.
Yeah. And this is the part that I hate about it, is that like, I'm actually interested in what the marketers do. I'm genuinely like I'd love to know what they have learned about human behavior, what they have learned about what captures our attention, because I've got like I'll call it a professional interest in it. I want to understand how the human mind works and how human behavior works on that level. It's just it's a shame that it feels like there's this level of insight has to get commodified.
Yes.
There has to be a product that's attached to it. And that's the direction in which we're choosing to apply.
Well, that's the motivational force behind it. That's the motivational force. So like it doesn't have to be the motivational force. And that's why we call ourselves the Revolutionary Think Tank Podcast. But like, I do think though that like, if it is that these marketers have cracked like, some, I don't know, some code as to how perfectly to market to people or something like that, I would suggest to you, and this is actually something that you've probably taught me, that there would be AI out there that would know what these marketers are across because they've put it out there in writing somewhere, or they've expressed it on the internet somewhere. And like the AI would be able to teach you everything that a marketer would know, and soon better than them, right? Like the AI would be the best marketer one day, which is the stuff that I'm talking about in this hyper segmented world that we already live in, plus AI. Like, yeah, I don't think, like, if we're talking about an attention economy here, which is already something that is incredibly scarce and like is heavily dictated by who can be the most effective at attention grabbing. If an AI is able to get access to all of the information out there, from psychology to marketing to understanding capitalism, like if it can integrate all of those fields of knowledge within whatever time it takes a server to bounce it back again, like the attention economy as we know it, this is just infantile stuff that we're dealing with at the moment.
Yeah. So we've like, I agree with you 100%, and I feel like we're probably flogging a dead horse on that one in terms of the direction that it could potentially go with the access to the data that we have and the technology that we have available to us. I guess what I'd love to be able to sort of shift the focus to is in terms of like, how do we protect ourselves against this stuff? So we talked about mindfulness before in terms of being able to manage
I think it's enough.
sort of where our attention is going. I think that's one strategy we can use. We can fight fire with fire and bring AI to AI and be like, AI, you help me figure out where my attention's going.
Yes.
And jump on this Feedly bandwagon or anything that's sort of similar to.
Yeah.
This actually is a really good segue, because the last topic that I kind of wanted to discuss on this is that, well, Albert Wenger kind of brushes on it in the book, and I think he kind of delves into it most when he discusses psychological freedom, but misinformation comes up. And if you have a whole bunch of information that's thrown at you, especially, going back to in a day of uploading videos on YouTube, you'd have to spend 100 years in order to watch through everything within that day. Not necessarily everything that is uploaded in that day is going to be factually correct. And I guess the Australian government is already going through its misinformation bill at the moment. And I guess you covered this recently, MysterE.
I did.
It's doesn't the funny thing is that the misinformation bill is more trying to control social media and what it deems as harm or not harm in its broad definitions, rather than let's take such a thing as what happened with the Voice to Parliament referendum. Like, one of the main reasons coming out of that was that the reason why it failed is that not many people that walked in to vote yes or no actually understood what the Voice was, because there just was simply a lot of noise and misinformation and disinformation that was happening. And this is one of the impetuses behind the misinformation bill being put in there. But if you actually look into the detail of what's in the misinformation bill, if you're a news provider, you're actually excluded from this misinformation bill, which is basically the impetus. Well, it's the impetus for this misinformation bill being there, because everyone's like, oh, Sky News and Fox News are out of control. They spread a lot of misinformation. We should do something about it. And if in the bill you're basically like, oh yeah, we've let Sky News off the hook, then what's the point?
Yeah.
So I was doing some research on this, and this does come back to our earlier points around like what actually grabs our attention. Like I'll introduce a third term that I only recently learned about called malinformation, which is like
Ooh, all right.
true, but used to harm. So it's information that's technically true, but it's used in a way that's designed to, I guess, capture people's attention. Yeah, like it can be used to sort of damage.
Like a half truth, maybe.
Like I don't think it's I don't think it's so much a half truth, but like it could be, say, a statistic that comes out which might paint an unfavorable picture of say
cherry pick data. So
So I think that stuff would fall under malinformation as well.
Yeah.
But one of the other statistics I was reading is like fake news spreads 6 times faster than real news. Now there has to be a reason for that, because fake news generates an emotional reaction from us.
Yeah.
Potentially in a way that real news does not. So like we're fighting the war on that front as well. Like it's hard enough to sort of wade through all the different competing demands on our attention, but throwing misinformation into the mix, or disinformation or malinformation, which is like specifically targeted towards getting that emotional reaction from us, it's a completely different ballgame.
Let me put this to the panel, okay? And it'll be interesting actually to get a psychologist's view on this. But as a child, many people would have played a game called Chinese Whispers. Now, depending on what country you come from, they don't actually call it Chinese Whispers everywhere. Other countries just call it Whispers or other cultural things. I don't know where the Australians had got the Chinese thing from. But like, let's just put aside that it may be potentially a bad thing, but like whatever. If you've played Chinese Whispers before, you would know that not only is it expected in the game that information is passed on incorrectly, but it is also potentially the point of the game to, warp the truth or be creative with it in order to get the most surprising result at the end. And so like all I am saying is that I don't think there is anything unusual in the fact that humans, by passing on information to one another, not only get it wrong, but due to their own characteristics and personal preferences and opinions, put their own spin on information. And in a social grouping, as a herd animal, as a being that lives in a society, it is our job as individuals to constantly filter information that comes from even the most trusted sources, like your parents or your loved ones, or like experts in a field. You're generally, even if you're not conscious of it, you're generally discerning all the time, hey, that person's probably got their own agenda. So when they're speaking about something, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt, even if you trust them. And so like, I see this whole conversation about misinformation, disinformation on a larger scale, just being a hyper version of the fact that communication is complicated. And it is actually up to us to discern the information that is being handed to us. And if in this age where information is, which is what we've been talking about all podcast long now, in an age where information is just so abundant that it becomes harder to discern what information is true or not, it then becomes our responsibility as responsible citizens in this modern world to be more discerning and not be like, well, you know what, there's a lot of bad stuff out there, so I want somebody else to tell me what to think. No, that is the wrong response for me. We need to be able to, if we live in the information age now, it is our job to be better discerning, not better informed, better discerning. And so, like, if you don't trust anything,
say no to the other one either, but
it was, yeah, well, no, but at least you should be questioning more if this is the case. I would put it to you guys.
let me frame it this way, because I think that for the people who do sort of spread misinformation or disinformation or malinformation, like there is some type of awareness on some level that the message that they're putting out there is more likely to resonate with their target audience if it's framed in a certain way that's designed to be emotionally resonant. So it still comes back to that paradigm of, hey, I want some attention and I've figured out how to actually grab it from people. What I do with it from there, up to me. But I think,
which is human, which is what we talked about before.
Look, absolutely, we all want it. We all need attention on some level. So I get it. I'm not begrudging him for that. You know, I think to your point, you know, we wind up, because there is so much information out there and we don't quite know how to make sense of it. It's quite easy for us to attach ourselves to the source of the information as to just like questioning its veracity. So if I find my trusted sources of information, then I'm less likely to go back and fact check that stuff because I'll just take their word for it. Versus, like, let's say I'm like a source of information that I've come across that has produced factually inaccurate stuff, or stuff that for whatever reason doesn't emotionally resonate with me. I'm going to be more likely to dismiss that like that source of information altogether, rather than question it on an informational level. I'm questioning it at a source level. I think that's what we're doing in society at the moment.
But that is a problem with the individual, not the information.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, no, hang on, because look, everybody, any source, like, no one is right 100% of the time. Like I'll put it out there. Despite people's best intentions, to consistently produce factual information, our understanding of what that knowledge is evolves over time. Like, and it's entirely possible that contradictory information could emerge sort of over time. So you can't point to a person and just assume anything that comes out of this person's mouth is gospel truth. At the same time, you know, if we've got these like people that might have said something outrageous in the past or might have produced something factually inaccurate, that doesn't necessarily mean that I should dismiss absolutely everything that person says from here on in. Look, to your point, we need to get better at those critical thinking skills in terms of discerning on an informational level. Hey, this piece of information that came from that person, is it right or not? How do I double check it? How do I fact check it? This piece of information that came from this guy that I hate and I can't stand because he just consistently produces this outrageous stuff. Let me at least ask a question. Am I throwing the baby out with the bathwater here? Or should I actually maybe take it seriously, double check it? So, and then the question around,
this is being discerning.
What do I not? Like we've only got so much capacity to be able to fact check stuff. So how do you then go about making the decision as to what you do fact check?
But this is part of being discerning. This is what I'm struggling with here at the moment, and which is why I'm opposed to kind of censoring information just because somebody deems it misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation in the public interest, in the common good. Who are these people to tell us that this is what we should be considering the truth or not? Like you said, like, so people might be right today and wrong tomorrow. Certain ideas might be right today and then proven wrong tomorrow. And that doesn't mean that they are misinformation. It just means that, like, more information has come to light that has disproven this commonly held belief or something like that. The truth is relative. And so for us to be so categorical in it is dangerous territory in my mind. And like, we just don't need to go there. And if the question is that, like, because there's so much information in an information age that it is hard for us to be discerning, then like our conversation today and for the last few weeks now has been centered on AI and who can troll through data better than any human could ever do in a lifetime in seconds. AI could probably do that for us.
Or to reverse that, what is seen as not happening or a mistruth today, and then proven that it is a truth tomorrow. Like, for example,
what about that situation?
Like for example, let's take the situation that happened recently. That's, at least I have seen on a few Australian news providers that I think are pretty well balanced. Like, for example, it was because of Michael West Media that I actually found out that the BRICS meeting was happening. But if you looked at the mainstream media, as far as they were concerned, BRICS wasn't happening. But the reason why they were doing that is because the fact BRICS is happening and they're discussing the conflict that's happening over in Palestine and, the Israel-Palestine conflict, it being condemned by the BRICS, by India, Russia, Brazil, and China, is not within the American interest. Like, that's majorly embarrassing for America. So, the fact that the Australian media isn't covering that, or and only certain outlets are covering that, that paints a certain picture, according to the Australian media, of what's important and what isn't important.
Yeah, we've barely even touched on that, like, because that's I guess the opposite of misinformation is sort of convenient omission of information.
Yeah.
Right. How do we navigate that stuff when and I think, like, part of what can help us navigate this terrain is understanding, like, the motivations of the people that could be the people that are actually involved in this stuff, the people that are sharing information. So, in some cases there are going to be, economic drivers of their strategities, and
you can say it, Kareem. It's all right. Just say the profit motive.
I'm letting you guys get to me. Hey, look, I'm clearly influenced by you here. But look, I can't. I'm trying to remember. I was doing some research on this earlier. Like, well, let me put it to you guys. What could, outside of the profit motive incentive for adopting a strategy for sharing information, what are some of the other drivers that like, whether it be on an individual level or a societal or a structural level, for a person choosing to, like, misinform, disinform, malinform, or conveniently omit the truth?
Look, the only thing that comes out, like, and trumps, like, an economic interest, while there are various other interests, like on a personal level, like, there might be some kind of ground to be made between certain individuals, but that's like very, very localized and very specific. Outside of the economic motive on a grander level, you would have, like, kind of power relations. So someone that would get some type of power advantage out of releasing that type of information. So if it's not economic, it might be political in some sense, or it might be about domination. Ideological, yeah. So, like, ideological or cultural differences. So one group dominating another, one culture dominating another, or one set of beliefs or ideas dominating another. So there's like a power element to that of some sort.
This is we're probably got a limited time left, but we could probably do a whole other conversation on this. How does attention relate to power? How does your ability to capture attention
well, if it comes with influence,
with your power level?
Yeah, if it comes with influence, then it's incredibly powerful.
Oh, we'd spent the entire time talking about Murdoch because that basically was the media
Or
bargaining code.
or
And
any influencer, out there with, 1 million subscribers plus on any platform is incredibly powerful.
Okay, so maybe we should be advocating for the responsible use of power, by these people who are able to grab attention. I think there is more of a responsibility, more of an impetus on people who are able to capture people's attention to use that attention responsibly. Now, those responsibilities carry through on an individual level, but on an organizational level, and a societal level as well. Like if we're copying these negative impacts, from people who have successfully captured our attention and retained it, then to some extent we do need protections as a society from what could actually go wrong with that stuff. Now, the flip side of that is people who capture. Let's take sports stars, for example, who capture attention in one domain, wind up acquiring it in a whole bunch of other domains that they maybe necessarily didn't want, and all of a sudden they're treated as role models. That we look up to, and whose behavior, actually winds up having an impact and an influence on, say, the younger generation, or in terms of what's acceptable and what's not. So, I want to advocate for more responsibility, from the people in power, from the people who do capture attention. But we've got to be conscious of taking that too far as well.
Yeah, and that is my concern, that this potentially takes it too far because it captures beyond responsibilities of the individual. So like you said with a sports star, it's a classic example, right? They're very impressionable on young people, and if they wind up, footage of them gets leaked in the news or on social media, they're taking drugs or, beating someone up and being violent and disorderly and all that sort of stuff. All the kids out there think that this is cool and they do the same thing, kind of thing. So there is a responsibility on that individual. They're kind of beholden to codes of conduct as employees of whatever sports club that they are part of. So I think a code of conduct is probably a better tool than just having legislation passed that's just anything that the government decides is misinformation, because the specifics of the Australian version is they've thrown in a lot of things that are anything that's harmful to the government will be considered misinformation. So if you're out there criticizing the government, I'm serious, I've done a video on it. I'll link it in the description if anyone's interested. But I go through the legislation in a lot of detail, and they've just whacked in stuff.
That's suppression of dissent.
It's incredible. But this is the wedge. This is where it starts. You start fighting misinformation, and then before you know it, Big Brother's knocking your door down because you've said something bad about the Australian economy. So maybe codes of conduct for people with influence is better than tackling misinformation.
Honestly, I'm all for a code of conduct as long as it's a picture of Kareem at the front of it, pointing at you and being like the quote from Spider-Man, where it's with great power comes great responsibility.
All right, and I think I've got my thumbnail. Thank you, boys.
Okay, and with that, after that great talk, that brings us to the final segment. Kareem, you knew this was coming. What's that synthwave art? So do you wanna guess this one?
What is that?
Man, I've been getting bad at these recently, eh?
No, I've been trying to look at that too over the length of this podcast.
What do you want to have a crack at it, MysterE?
Well, I have no idea. I was trying to think of it. She's got my attention. She's grabbed it.
It's captivating in some way.
Okay, so it's the spectre of AI haunting the attention economy and renewing society.
The spectre of
You're
AI.
getting really specific with these. It's like you're trying to throw us off, basically.
Yeah. I think I can see the spectre thing now. She's a little bit ghostly, especially with the stuff under the eyes. But wow.
But I love
pretty
that
cool,
it's
though.
like an AI suit because you can see that she has like the iron,
That
Yeah,
like
looks
yeah.
so cool. I
suit kind
didn't
of
even
thing.
notice that, eh?
Yeah.
Digging that jacket. Hey.
And
I was
yeah,
going to say
what,
Australia's #1 synthwave prompt engineer for AS.
hey,
You do produce some doozies, man. Like,
okay. And with that, again, thank you for Kareem for joining us. I think it's pretty
pleasure.
obvious at this point that you are now a fellow co-host in the podcast. So thank you for coming week in, week
Glad to
out.
be a part. Always
Yeah,
enjoy
thank
it.
you. Thank you very much.
And remember, everyone, to keep thinking and keep learning. And to sign us off, I'll give it to you, MysterE.
Thank you very much for AS, Kareem, for your time. And please, if you enjoyed this episode, give us a like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more. You know the drill. And please remember, I am, you are, we are a mystery.